Hey, I'm thinking for the debate we could do not this Saturday, but next Saturday. If that's all right with you. I think we should maybe do advertising for it like a few days ahead of time as well. Um, so yeah. Also, I think I'm gonna do some reading. I'm probably gonna answer with personal experience and just some of my conclusions about things from different texts. I'll probably bring in the Shiva. I might bring in the Shiva Sutras a little bit because the Shiva Sutras are a little more vital to my knowledge base and what I'm actually doing. Um, Shiva Sutras though are very obtuse. Um, but basically it's like it it kind of talks around the sort of ethereal dreamlike reality of existence. And I think this is a lot of my point is that um sort of when I talk about morality, it almost has nothing to do with, I think people think about relativism and then it's like, oh, why can't I just take a gun and shoot you? And it's like, well, that's not even really a moral question because, like, if you take out a gun and shoot death, like if all of us in the group chat are standing in a room instead of the group chat, right? Just teleport. Um, and you take out a gun and shoot death in the gut, you know, I'm thinking in my head logically, well, when's he going to do that to me for no reason? You know what I mean? So actually, that's not really like the more severe moral stuff actually isn't morality. Um, so that's probably where I'm gonna go with it. Um if you bring up like what is it, like trying to make it more personable, because to me that's not even really like a moral question. Morality is more subtle. Morality is the things you do when people aren't looking. You know what I mean? Like like what are your intentions when you give to charity? Well, actually most people seem to agree, at least when I was in Protestantism, that it's very hard to have the right intentions when you give money or something like that, you know? So that's where I think actually making it more, bringing it more into like life and real experience actually muddies it more than keeping it in more of this philosophical space, because actually I think morality doesn't really govern the actions of people anyways. So that's like one argument I'll probably make if you kind of go there. But it's just as far as like the philosophical, like high-minded morality, like why are you doing what you're doing, to do good for others. But why? What's the morality of that? Like I think that's where morality really comes into the conversation, is like is life about me spanking, spanking my monkey like oh, I'm gonna own a business and you know I'm gonna get the baddest bitch I can get and blah 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 blah. um and then it's questionable. See that's kind of what I'm talking about too, even is like um well, if I want a really pretty wife, right, or a really pretty girlfriend, um, or whatever. Why do I want it? What's the thought behind it? What's the true will of that? But then if we think about karma, this circles back about to what you were saying, which I actually learned from when we were talking to you last, of like we probably don't have, infinite decisions. We have like hundreds of decisions we can make. So we're not absolutely free, but we have some free will. I would agree with that so much. I didn't think about it in such crystallized terms. I wasn't even thinking we have hundreds of choices, but then I started rethinking about some of the things I've done, because I know I've kind of adjusted sort of my destiny. And most people stay in one mindset, and then their actions are really predictable, and then they really have a very faded existence. And like I said, they're predictable in that way because they can't actually change the machinery of what makes choices, their inner mind or even the higher mind, and because it's difficult, that's practically magic. So to such people even that don't know their own mind, the conversation about high-minded philosophical morality is kind of a moot point anyways as well, because if you literally don't have the power to change your mind, to change your mentality, you're not free. You don't have free will, actually. So you have to graduate to get free will by being able to change your consciousness. I don't even feel like, I need to reference that. I think that's just kind of self-evident. You know what I mean? Damn, I'm on a roll here. This is where I find Crowley's concept of true will, which I think there can be some debate about what true will actually means per se. I think that, Crowley, at least from what I've seen, I think it was a little bit maybe subconsciously intentional that the things are undefined enough that if you have a slightly different idea about things, you can still, benefit from his work. This is where when Rosicrucians have come to me and said, "Oh, it's full of blinds. His work is all blinds." It doesn't really ring true to me because from my perspective, looking at the Book of the Law, it's making a very particular point, and no matter what perspective you're coming from, you'll get it. You'll get the point, and it doesn't need to rub you the wrong way. If you are in some process of self-discovery, of learning magic, if you're in religious cult mode, even being in some mystical ideology, and you're like, oh no, it's like X and Y in text X and Y, or in text Z, of course, anything that's not exactly what you already think is going to be, sort of incendiary to you. But I think his concept of true will, that there is only love under law, that will is love, kind of thing. Like the things you feel bound to do, the things you feel that impulse to do that make you feel alive, that's your true will to some extent. And there's more to it than that. It's not that no one ever felt good doing something that wasn't their true will, or that wasn't coming from this deep layer. But I think there's a little bit of a assumption that you kind of have meditated through some of the layers of shit in your consciousness. And like in Libra O, he talks about, to use Libra O, you should have done X, Y, and Z meditations. Like he said you should be a master of several types of divination, and a master of Karnataka, prana, mindfulness meditation, just the sitting meditation. I forget what he called it. And there's one other, I believe, forget what it was. But so there's almost this need to graduate into the conversation at all. And my point here isn't to disqualify you. I think that that's not going to be my argument. But I think if someone is relaxed and sort of out of ego, it's kind of like they're already there anyways. Also, the other thing I would say, and maybe this was the fourth meditation, is Jnana. No, that's different. That's a different type of yoga. Sorry. But yeah, you're a Jnani yogi. It's just that part's not related to Karnataka yoga, and those are processes of yoga. what I'm talking, then Jnana yoga is like, it's not, Jnana yoga is like your whole life spent, you know, kind of. It's a whole, it's like you can be doing Jnana yoga. That's like your overall path. But like Karnataka, you just sit for 30 minutes. I don't know why everything's called yoga in Hinduism and some these like Hinduism and Buddhism. Anyways, you know, yeah. Yeah, I would say through Jnana yoga, a lot of people are like, I've met a lot of people that are thinking the same as me, or having some of these qualities. I will say that like being silent and just being with your own thoughts for a long time. I heard of that one Orthodox priest father was saying this, that's really good for you. Um, so that's sort of like a monastic way of it, I guess. Of course, the more of these practices you can bundle together, the quicker and more powerful one's progress can be. But, you know, I think a lot. The other thing is, this kind of spiritual progress follows you through lifetimes. So I'll probably hit on that too. And the reason is because of spirituality, I think there's a need to communicate how obtuse it is. Like, I can look at someone and almost, like, I don't want to say it this way exactly, but for lack of better, you know, I can look at someone, I can get some idea of where they're at spiritually, you know? Like, you know, and then if I can say, oh, this person's more shamanic, this person's more blah 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 blah, you know, I can track a lot of things. But I think the reason why in a lot of spiritual traditions it's like, oh, don't assume what someone's spirituality is because if you're not on a level to just look at someone and know, like someone like me, a mystic, can, to some extent, even mystics get tricked, even in the texts. You know, it's so dangerous. You can be living multiple lifetimes and practically your own hell, your own personal hell, because you said you slipped up with your words with someone who, you know, is basically equivalent to you of what you are to an ant, you know, and that's insane. And like I said, I'm talking about, you know, normies here. You're not really a normie.